The Federal Sex Discrimination Commissioner Kate Jenkins joins me from Sydney. Kate Jenkins, you found that 1 in 3 people working in Parliament House had experienced some form of sexual harassment. You also did the landmark broader workplace study into sexual harassment. How does the parliamentary figure compare to workplaces overall?
It's hard to compare the results directly, but the broader overall result is 1 in 3 Australian workers had experienced sexual harassment in the last 5 years. That it's probably slightly more than that in Parliament, but even more alarming, the stats told us that 51% of workers currently in the Australian Parliament had experienced one of bullying, sexual harassment or sexual assault in their time there. So that's 1 in 2 workers.
What role does alcohol play?
Alcohol did come up a lot in our inquiry, but it's not the key driver of sexual harassment, sexual assault and bullying. We found power imbalances, gender inequality, lack of diversity and lack of accountability as the key drivers, but there were definitely risk factors that exist in Parliament, that fly in, fly out sort of way of working. We saw the lack of leadership focus on people, and we definitely saw that sort of professional, personal blurring, including using alcohol both in Parliament House and outside, as one of the risk factors that contribute to what can be ultimately misconduct.
When you take all those factors together that you just outlined, it sounds like they could almost all be summed up under the umbrella of opportunity.
Look, we would combine all those risk factors that include the odd employment arrangements, the social conditions, just frankly the politics of working in there, the things like the media scrutiny. All of those things create risk. Opportunity is one way, lack of accountability is absolutely a problem. So people could engage in this conduct. People in positions of power, most commonly, were the bullies or the harassers. They could get away with it, which created the permissive environment.
On the question of lack of accountability, you've recommended that a code of conduct be implemented. If somebody has a complaint against a parliamentarian and then it's upheld, the sanctions have to not interfere with the operation of the parliament. Doesn't that still mean it is kind of limited in terms of what accountability would be there? For example, you couldn't sack somebody because that would change the operation of the parliament.
Yes, this is one of the myths, this idea that you can't hold someone accountable for a conduct because something about the Westminster system says no sanctions can be applied. Now, it does require a bit of finessing and understanding the Constitution to know what sanctions can be applied, but we found that if you could impose standards, there is a system by which you could have a reporting avenue that lower level sanctions could be and should be applied by what we've proposed as an independent parliamentary standards commission. Those more senior sanctions or more serious sanctions would be applied by Parliament. So there is a mechanism within Parliament for Parliament to sanction itself, and those are the sanctions that might be applied, for example, taking away travel allowances that could interfere with the parliamentarians doing their job, but it is for the Parliament to regulate its own conduct.
Did you find any one political party more or less culpable?
We didn't look at individual political parties, but the reality was the findings, the participation was across the Parliament, and it was also former people who had worked in that workplace. But the reality was we found it's a systemic issue. Those drivers of power, gender equality and lack of accountability and the particular unique conditions in Parliament all add up to a risk that faced everyone. It's not a question of one party or another. The change needs to happen in the whole system, and it will help right across the board.
Kate Jenkins, thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 7:30's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.